As we continue off with the conversations this morning, the second edition of the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference is expected to take place from the 20th to the 22nd of August, which is this week in the capital city. The event is being hosted by the Economic Association of Namibia in partnership with the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board and the Hanns Seidel Foundation, with the strategic partnership of the National Petroleum Corporation of Namibia and the endorsement of the official endorsement, of the Ministry of Mines and Energy. Joining us now with all the details on that, we're joined by the Mayor of Ludertitz, Phillippus Balhao. Your Worship, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. First things first, what are some of the key investment opportunities in the Namibia oil and gas sector for local and international investors?
Well, I think there's really so many opportunities, and that's why it's such an exciting opportunity for all of us. I speak more or less from a local authority aspect, where you look at the exploration phase, and then when we go into production, there's really a lot of things that we need to implement, like storage facilities, road and rail. But then on a local authority level, we also need the bulk infrastructure, really. We need serviced land for housing and industry, and that's quite challenging to address, if I'm honest. But that's also wonderful opportunities for our private sector stakeholders to come in and form partnerships with us. So really, there's so many opportunities. It would be really difficult to identify just one. But then obviously the skills transfer as well. We have a ready, willing and able workforce, and I think we just need to dive into it now to uplift and build these people into the key positions that we need them in. Because I must say, I was actually blown away. You hear how often people say that Namibia isn't ready, we don't have the capacity. But since the announcements were made, I've been blown away by just how ready the market is to respond, especially the private sector. They've been responding, they are ready, the expertise is in the country, so really exciting.
Amazing, which basically brings me to my next question as to how can Namibia attract more foreign direct investment while also ensuring that local businesses also benefit from it?
Again, I think being on a local authority level gives me quite an insight into that as well. So, policies and frameworks really encourage or chase away investors. So we really have to look at our frameworks and to see how can we streamline processes, make it easier for people to collaborate. And I think that should be the point, to use the local content, rely on the foreign direct investment, but to make sure that they partner with local companies and really uplift and then grow our industry as well. So, great opportunities there.
All right. Now, Your Worship, what would you say are some of the most pressing infrastructure needs for Namibia's oil and gas sector in order for it to thrive? And also, how can the public-private partnerships be leveraged just to address some of these infrastructure gaps?
Well, in Ludertitz's case, and I think in Walvis Bay as well to a certain degree, we really need to invest in our port infrastructure now. That's really a key strategic sort of aspect that we're lacking yet. And then obviously road and rail to connect us to the SADC region, because we're obviously going to be shipping this oil all over. So we really need to improve in that as well, so that we're accessible to the markets. And then, of course, investing in vocational training facilities. We cannot forget the human capital, and I think that's the most important of all of this, is to make sure that we take people along and leave no one behind. So there really are so many things that we need to juggle all at once, but I think it's been done so many times that we're really lucky to come in at this point where we can learn from the best and really implement the best practices from global players, so that we can really cement ourselves as a key player in that market and sector. All
right. But what would you say are some of the economic models that best support the sustainable development of Namibia's oil and gas resources?
Well, revenue sharing is definitely one that comes to mind, and it's a process that we're trying to sort of implement in Ludertitz now. When we have all of this opportunity, so many companies are approaching us. So we're trying to say, listen, give us a share in the business that you want to operate, so that we can have a little bit of the profit sharing and then obviously have a vested interest in the growth of that sector. And then I think the local content that we keep speaking about is very, very, very important. And then, I think we have people down in the south of Namibia who've kind of always been left out to a certain degree out of opportunities. So there's indigenous programs where you can really take the people from the homesteads and really build up their skills where they can become the employers of the future.
Amazing. What would you say is your vision for Namibia's future when it comes to the oil and gas industry over perhaps the next decade or so?
It's going to be a wild ride for the next decade, and I imagine Namibia where people have great opportunities, better healthcare, good education, where we can really compete with international players as well. I see a Namibia in the future where there is a distribution of health, equitable distribution of health or wealth. It's really important to make sure that we let everybody, the man on the street, benefit from these opportunities and not just a select few.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges the sector is facing at this point?
Well, I think the policies and bylaws and some of the legislation really makes it difficult, even for us at local authority level. When you're trying to sell land, there's so many different processes that it has to go through. So such a long period that you sometimes have to wait for approvals. So when you look at triple Ps, it's such a great tool to use to start these partnerships and address some of these challenges, but it's such a cumbersome and very difficult process to go through and takes a long time, which can discourage investors as well. So we need to be looking at how do we make our laws a lot more inviting and encouraging for not just the foreign direct investor, but also for our locals, because as things stand at the moment, it's very difficult even for a Namibian entrepreneur to get into the market. You have to be able to wait it out for a few years while it goes through the processes. So we need to see how we can streamline all of that to make it easier.
Yeah, talk to us about the importance of international collaboration.
Well, I think, like I mentioned earlier, people have made mistakes across the world, and we don't want to repeat them. So that's probably one of the biggest things, as to leverage the expertise that's out in the world and really implement the best practices. And research and development is another thing that I think really gives us a great opportunity. There's a lot of new technology that's a lot more green, the integration of renewables per se. So I think relying on that expertise from global players is what's going to make us a leader in this sector.
All right. Now, seeing that this is the second edition of the Oil and Gas Conference, what can the public look forward to?
A lot of really intelligent people that will be sharing the information with all of us, how to get into the market, how to identify gaps that really speak to you, because there are really so many different gaps. And I was trying to think about it last night to try and nail down a few, because I think we always look at the rigs where everybody wants to work on the rigs, but there's really important work to be done in the offices. And when we're speaking about environmental protection, we should be sending out a lot of youngsters to go and study that, because all of this, we're really going to have to balance the development and the preservation of our nature. And we're going to need really smart people to do that as well. So there really it's hard to pin it down. There really are so many opportunities, but this oil and gas sector or conference is an opportunity to come and rub shoulders and learn from the best.
Amazing. It's a 3-day conference. Yes. Can you just give us all the logistics around it?
All the logistics? Well,
yes.
I think the registration starts today, where people can go and collect their badges. And then we're going to be really busy from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. There will be panelists speaking around the clock almost, and a lot of side meetings as well. So, it is possible to find your future partner there and to have a little side caucus where you can share ideas and numbers. So, I think that's just the main aspect is lots of panel discussions where you can also interact with the panelists, really get behind all of the information that you need. So, it's an exciting 3-day program.
Amazing. Any final remarks, perhaps before we let you go, Your Worship?
No, I just look forward to seeing everybody there. And then, again, I have to encourage everybody to come and invest in Ludertitz. There's no better time than the current. We are preparing that down like there's no tomorrow. So come be part of an amazing efforts down in Ludertitz.
All right. Your Worship, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and all the best with the conference.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right.